Well, hello and welcome to Top Gear Book Club. Now, why, you may be wondering, am I reading a biography about famed Franco-American designer Raymond Loewy entitled Streamliner? Why indeed? Because oddly enough, Ray and his fellow design pioneers from the 1920s and 30s are a big influence in the car you see here, the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Following the massive love-in that greeted the Ioniq 5, Hyundai's designers have really gone for it this time. Sure, it's polarizing, but for this more sporting Hyundai EV, they wanted to mix things up a bit. So forget the old Russian doll idea. These cars belong together like pieces on a chess set. Design consistency doesn't mean creating a bunch of cars that all look identical. They can be different while sharing the same values. So what are the key themes here? Well, I'll tell you. Living space, pixel light, and sustainability. This is the Hyundai Ioniq 6, the bishop to the Ioniq 5's knight, perhaps. Here's head of Hyundai Styling Group, Simon Loasby, to explain how the team took 2020's Prophecy show car and made it real.
Simon, I've got this theory that with LEDs and laser light and all the rest of it, actually the headlights have become one of the most important parts of modern car design. So I guess we should start here with the pixels.
No, almost. They are important, really important.
But we're going to come back to them, are we?
Yes.
All right.
Ioniq 6, we have to start in the side view. With this car, it's all about the proportion of the side view and what we call the single curve. The car started with getting that ultimate streamlined form. That became the pet name for the car as well.
It's the streamlined thing. So these are 30s cars.
Yeah.
And you know, in the presentation you referenced the Stout Scarab.
Exactly.
The Phantom Corsair. And a 1947
Saab. Yeah.
I mean, these are unusual reference points for Hyundai, are they not?
True, but they are the true, if you like, the harmony then of the highest level of understanding of engineering and aerodynamics, technology and design. That's where it all started in the 30s, and you see it repeating this story through the years. And we felt that was the perfect way of creating a uniqueness, but out of a logical, sort of ethical reasoning behind being efficient. And so we connect this car to almost 100 years of history of the movement of streamlining.
So we're talking about aerodynamic efficiency, which is clearly a very important component for an electric vehicle. The Ioniq 6 follows the 5, there will be a 7. That's Hyundai's EV family.
Exactly.
What's the drag factor of this car?
0.21.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
And the thing was, it wasn't designed in a wind tunnel, although we did a lot of work with the wind tunnel team. It really started with the fundamental architecture, knowing that streamlining works and how we create the volumes in the architecture, the lower nose, the plan shape on the front, the streamlined section to the separation line at the rear of the car. So very early on, we knew we're getting an architecture into a good, efficient shape. And then through the program with our aerodynamics guys, we found the last 10% to get down to the 0.21 figures. And little things like if you come to the front wheel here, we've got what we call the gap closer. This little gap closer closes that by 25 millimeters. We need the suspension travel here, not here. So our argument was, if we can bridge the gap, reattach the flow as soon as possible, we're going to get a better drag coefficient. Gave us 2 counts.
Wow.
So we get down another 2 counts, just a little touch like that, which you almost hardly notice.
No,
but it's integrated in design, and nobody else does it. You can get inspired everywhere. We talk about pebbles being shaped in the river. Look at a peregrine falcon when it's diving. Hits 300 kilometers per hour. Look at the shape it takes. And it's got a part of that to it. So it's working in nature. We can, if you like, simulate that in a vehicle form. And all around the car, these little details have stacked up to get us down to that level.
The other thing with this sort of a shape, this streamlined shape, how do you avoid the banana or the kind of melty bit so that it doesn't just sag at either end?
Nice description. You've got to counterbalance that. You've got to counteract that with a line going the other way. So with the positive shape, we've got the lower accelerating line, which is just trying to balance the proportion out, so it doesn't look like it's all sagging. But then also breaking up the height. This is not a low car. We've got a lot of headroom, a lot of space in the interior. But to disguise that, we need long lines. So the belt line, which goes all the way through to the front and across to the back, then the bone line underneath, really breaking the height, and then the contrast color, which this, by the way, this color is made from upcycled tire pigment. So old tires, which are then recycled and used to pigment to give us that black pigment in the color. All of these things slim the car down, so it doesn't look so tall, even though it's over 1.5 meters high.
Living space. This car has got a notably long wheelbase.
Yes.
And you had to fight to get an extra, how many? 50 millimeters?
Yeah.
Which sounds like not a lot.
Yeah.
But it's a significant amount.
But when you look at the proportion of the vehicle, the rear wheel compared to the arch and the rear seating point, we just needed to stretch it to get it right. And if the wheel comes forward, it just didn't work as well. So we had to have a serious discussion. Happily, I can stand now and know that me and Sanyap and Luke and the whole design team, we made it clear this is what we recommend. We know it's not easy and it's not what we started out on a bit of paper, but the team achieved it, and it looks better for it.
And we should obviously talk about these. Now these are an option, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I like them. But I do worry, as someone who, if you're driving I'm not saying it's going to happen with this car, but you might clip a bit of a hedgerow on a windy
narrow
road,
lanes that you
near where I live, and I worry that there's a very expensive piece of technology hanging off the side of the car. But firstly, this goes in and pivots in.
It does. It rotates in and actually mirrors themselves, even a normal mirror. With all the motors to move in every direction, they're complicated things. And you have they're heated, you have warning lights in them and so on. Here we've got a camera in there instead. And it helps us reduce the drag coefficient. Instead of having a mirror there, we have a display on the interior, which is fantastically integrated into the design. And it gives us that. It's an option. It's not illegal all over the world. So Korea, we can do it. It'll come to Europe. America is not legal yet. Yep. Let's see how the regulations change.
Sure.
From the side to the front. Again, somewhat eccentrically, Simon and the team have decided to make the pixel thing one of the main pillars of the Ioniq design philosophy. And praise the Lord, here's a new car that uses all the available technology without looking like it's really angry.
When we're developing this, one of the key things, you don't want it to look unhappy or too aggressive. And a good, where we get to the main beam, low beam, high beam, and the main projector units in here, they're just rotated 3 degrees. Because if they're not, it kind of looks like droopy eyes, looks a little bit unhappy. And if you go too far, it looks too aggressive. So just want to create, it looks horizontal because it's not.
This pixel thing, where sort of reminds me of the early days of sort of digital in the mid to late 70s.
70s, those first tennis games we played with a boop, boop, and
they were very sophisticated.
Well, it made, we talk about streamlining, how it's very memorable and it comes back. And the pixel story there, that takes people of our age as a positive memory of those times. Fast forward to today and you've got the young generations with Minecraft and that kind of thing. But then you can go to another age where in Korea our language, Hangul, is an alphabet. It looks like a script, used to be a script until 1443 where King Sejong turned it into an alphabet from a script, 23 letters. One of those letters, Myum, is a perfect pixel. And so for me, it's digital to analog, it's the modern age of Minecraft, but it's also a 600-year-old design language.
I was going to say, this is a car that's influenced by something that happened in the 15th century.
That's it. It's possibly the oldest design language for cars around. And if you want to know, and I'm sure you're going to ask me the question, 736. It's the number of pixels you'll find on the exterior, excluding these which aren't quite pixels, but the illuminated pixels, the door handles where you have 6 pixels because it's Ioniq 6. Add them up, especially the rear spoiler we'll look at when we go to the back. That's all part of the Ioniq language, the consistency across Ioniq. And when you see a car with pixel lighting, you don't have to see the logo. You'll know that must be a Hyundai, that must be Ioniq.
And there are plenty of other things. Talk me through everything that's going on. This is a temperature sensor?
There's temperature sensor and illuminated for the battery level. So if you're waiting, seeing a car charging, you can see straight away, oh, it's got 1 more pixel to go. So you're messaging people around you, like using light as a function, not only for seeing, but actually giving a functional message how charged it is. I mean, the rest of the stuff on the front is important to note. We've got a very low front here, helps us aerodynamically with a good plan shape, keeps the flow attached around the corner, helps drag coefficient.
There's something happening in this black band, isn't
Exactly, this black band has all the sensors in it. You see that, the black band on Ioniq 5 between the headlights. Ioniq 6 has a horizontal band which includes the parking sensors and cameras and so on.
And the name of the game here is trying to hide them away?
Integrate.
Yeah.
Integrate and try and reduce to some extent. It's having loads of bits to reduce so the design talks and not these little details, even though the technology is so important. So we celebrate it, but integrate it. Yeah. Then you've got active air flaps in the low area, so flush active air flaps, one either side, which open when we need the cooling air for the battery pack and so on. And we have the air curtain intake, which isn't so much at the side. We found that doesn't help us in terms of drag, so we pull it onto the front, take the high pressure air here, exhaust it around the front wheel, which then activates the attachment of the airflow, reduces the drag even further. And don't forget the new logo, almost flush here, flat logo, the latest interpretation of the Hyundai logo as well.
Things get a bit more complicated at the rear of the Ioniq 6. Avoiding a bendy banana silhouette is one thing, but as cool as a streamliner looks, you've got to keep a car stable too. Has this led to a few compromises?
There's a lot going on here.
This is all
all about aero, right?
This is everything about it. We would love to have had a rise and fall spoiler, but we knew we weren't going to be able to afford that. And we knew it was going to be heavy. So we elected, like in Prophecy Show Car, to have a fixed spoiler, but when we extend it the width of Prophecy, you get a lot of drag off the side. And when it's straight, we don't get such a good function in the aerodynamics. So this slight amount of curvature in rear view gives us the best aerodynamic performance that we could achieve with our aero guys. So they defined the section. We said, what do you guys need? We'll do that.
And what about this?
Yeah, this is a reference to our ducktail spoiler. We get a little bit of airflow that comes around the corner and just kicks off the corner of that. And also has a practical benefit. It gives us a big ledge. This is our opener, our handle to lift up the trunk lid when you have a manual trunk lid. We have an electric trunk lid as well. Just press the button, it opens automatically. There's also a manual version of that.
More pixels. They're everywhere.
I'm going to let you into a little secret, okay?
Yeah.
I don't normally care that much about how much boot space or trunk space there is.
Yeah. These cars, if one of you or two of you are heading off, you can fit your golf bags in. I don't play golf, but I know how important it is that you have that capability. Yeah. And moving the car close to the lifestyle of our consumers. In Korea particularly, a massive amount of golf players.
They play a lot of golf in Korea.
Yeah, and so we wanted to make sure, okay, that works for that lifestyle. We're moving the Ioniq cars towards the lifestyle that is required.
My point is, this lovely streamliner shape,
yeah.
The line that drops all the way down at the back.
Single curve.
It obviously hurts boot space. So at some point you've gone, no, look.
We have to be clever with it. And through the process, one of the big discussions we had and with the PM team, the project management team, was we need to show how much space there is. We need to show you it's enough. So in the design modeling phase, the trunk space was part of the interior model. So we could show, look, we've got enough.
My favorite view is pretty much when you just, now the thing that strikes me here, obviously our pixels are, they're there.
Prominent.
Then you get that greeting, don't you, which to me, again, gentleman of a certain age, I loved Knight Rider when I was a kid.
Yeah,
How often did that reference come up when you were designing this car?
Often and deliberately. It's okay. Those who remember have a passion for it and remember it. And when we have an animated sequence of pixel lighting, there's the upgradability of that in the future. We can tune that in the future, and we create other welcoming scenarios.
But then, so we go from these kind of, quite voluptuary forms to the verticals at the back.
Yes. Reference the Prophecy Show Car. That had these two vertical elements, which kind of just fixed the design. It's just stability. So we've got the big horizontal bar of pixels across, and then these verticals, which house the fog lights and the backup lights, which really reference the show car Prophecy, which went down so well.
Yeah. And these tires are 245, aren't they?
Yes, 245 40-20s.
Yep.
The 20-inch wheel is the biggest wheel we have on the car.
Presumably you would prefer me to order my Ioniq 6 on 20-inch wheels.
Of course. It's a natural thing that cars look better on bigger wheels. It is another discussion we always have, and how big can we go, and there's more weight. But visually, the first impact of a design, there's no second chance for that. So getting the proportion right on a bigger set of boots is crucial, very important.
And so to one of the other main pillars of the Ioniq 6, the living space. I remember when we used to call it the interior. How many pixels will there be in here, I wonder?
There's no logo on the steering wheel, boss. But there are some charging lights here.
Two things, charging lights and voice control. So when you're talking to the car, these flicker and the car talks to you, the pixels talk to you. Pretty much everybody else has a logo in the middle, and we said, do we need that? Why do we do that? Everybody does it. No, we don't need that. Let's apply some extra functional value to the steering wheel.
Yeah, no, it's good. And this isn't really an area that I'm always a bit disappointed, because when you're driving, you're obviously looking there, you're not looking down there, but you've put some real thought into what's actually happening on the door cards here.
All indirect lighting, and it looks as though we're lighting the panel, but it's actually light shining up at a waveform which is gradually disappearing in the main architecture of the door. So you have this fade out to the lighting, which is just attractive. And also it's a stowage space. It's also the door handle closing, and it's so reduced the door. We don't have any window lift switches on it anymore. Took all that off, put it in the center console, and then you go down to the lower area where we're all fed up with losing things in the bottom of the pocket. So we made it transparent, so we can see it easier, see what's in there.
No, I can't help noticing these. Clearly, there's not much happening at the moment.
Digital mirror system. I will never forget the design review very early in the project where one of the designers had this the archetypal biro sketch. It wasn't on a napkin, but it was a small bit of A4 paper, and he did this little wingtip design where the wingtips had the screen. And the exterior is about streamlines, about aero, and this gives that. We've all sat in an aeroplane and seen the wingtips, aerofoil, end of the wing look, but for a functional reason. And we said to him at the time, "You've solved it. This is like the best integration of those screens I've ever seen." And that's the interior. We chose it then, and here it is now in production.
Which begs the question, what happens if I haven't got those camera
mirrors? What you have a normal mirror, and then this is about 2/3 the size. It still has the feature on the end. So we swap out above this feature line, we swap out the screens or the standard just feature.
And the screen, is this carried over from Ioniq 5?
Two 12.3-inch screens, exactly. It's the same fantastic infotainment system, touch screen on this side, of course. And that's a carryover unit. We're always very cost sensitive, working at Hyundai, we're not this top end premium car, we can't charge so much. So we're looking for the right balance, and we're carrying over components to get the volume up. It works. It's deliberately a kind of sporty cocoon feeling. You're wrapped into this. It doesn't feel huge, but it doesn't feel small either, but it does feel emotionally sporty.
And how many USB ports and all that stuff?
Copious numbers of them.
Lots of them.
Yes. Yeah, every seat needs its own charging position, wireless charger as well as standard USB cable. Plus we have, of course, vehicle to load.
The lights, don't they do different things, don't they?
I was driving.
If you're approaching a speed camera or something.
Exactly. I was driving the other night, and I didn't actually know this function. I catch out of the corner of my eye the lights in the doors. It was a black interior. They were going mad. They were flashing red, and I didn't program red. I was like, hold on. As I slowed down, it stopped. I speeded up, it flashed red again, and I realized we're coming up to a speed camera.
Very cool. Lots of legroom behind as well.
Big amount of deceptively large interior space. You're sitting in the front now, you'd sit in the back and still have this much knee space as well.
What I'm fascinated by is the journey that Hyundai's on with Ioniq, because they're electric cars.
Yeah.
You've come up with a specific set of values and design
attributes.
Thank you. The Ioniq 5 is referencing the Pony, which was
74 Pony.
A 74 Pony, a Giugiaro design car. Obviously, he's a man who knew how to design a car
quite well. Yeah.
But we're not talking about the kind of legacy of BMW or Volkswagen or Fiat. Never mind Ferrari or someone like that, Lamborghini, whatever. What are you drawing upon?
Our own history is one point, because we have. But yes, we're quite a young company, but compared to startups, we're a really old company. Compared to what's going on in all these new EV companies, we have a 50-year history. And so we're looking to piece the story together to create the next, if you like, legacy. And this car has a nearly 100-year history. Even though it's a brand new car, we've never done one before, we have the history of the streamlined design movement. And we're connecting to that because it's a very logical way of executing and it makes sense. And we're combining technology with aesthetic, and that's Ioniq 6.
You own a DeLorean.
I do, yes. Personal history.
But that's another story. Oh, all right. Simon's dad was one of the guys who developed the DeLorean and got it into production. Now back to the Ioniq 6. Hyundai isn't giving too much away yet, but it uses the same Electric Global Modular Platform, EGMP for short, as the Ioniq 5 and Kia's EV6 and Genesis's GV60. And we're familiar with it and very impressed by it. On the 5, you have the choice of rear or all-wheel drive and standard range 58 kWh or long range 77.4 kWh battery packs and 400 or 800 volt charging capability. The even more aero-efficient 6 should improve on the 5's 300 mile or so range.
And they all lived happily ever after. Well, apart from Raymond Loewy, because unfortunately he's no longer with us. But he did say this: I believe one should design for the advantages of the largest mass of people. First and always, I think one should try to elevate the aesthetic level of society. Wise words. Thanks, Raymond. What do you reckon? Do you think he'd approve of the Hyundai Ioniq 6? I think he probably would have.